Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Ash, and this is the space where you and I get to journey this beautiful thing called life together. So pull up a cozy seat, get something divine to drink, because today we're diving into the divine, and that is, in essence, noticing the glimmers and the God-winks that we experience throughout our day. They are those little moments of divine guidance or gentle nudges, pushing us toward things that help us stay connected to ourselves and connected to the things around us. And a key note is, how often do we miss these things because we're so wrapped up in the hustle and the bustle of everyday life? In today's video, I'll be sharing what those signs look like, how to slow down enough to notice them, and simple ways to bring them into your everyday life to inspire hope, simplicity, and more meaning. Now let's take a moment to consider or to look at what I mean when I say glimmers and God-winks. You may already be familiar with these terms, or maybe they're completely new to you. Either way, I'm excited that you're here and journeying this with me. A glimmer is like a tiny spark in the middle of your day. It's that little moment of joy or inspiration that catches your attention, almost like the universe is giving you a, hey, I'm here, acknowledge me kind of moment. It's the kind of moment where you find yourself smiling because you received a message that feels like it could only resonate with you and what's going on with your life. It could be a moment where you stop and pause because you're recognizing the warmth of the sun on your face as you're walking. Or it could be those moments where life feels super chaotic, but you're able to catch your breath and pause and feel a very random sense of softness or peace in all of that. Glimmers are those little reminders that beauty and magic exist in the simplest of things, if only we would stop to notice. They're often really small, but can be incredibly significant in helping you to feel light and happy and at ease, or even just a little bit more connected to something outside of yourself. A God-wink, on the other hand, is something a little bit more special. It's a little divine confirmation that you're on the right path, that you're doing or making the right choice for yourself. This sometimes looks like coincidence in the essence of maybe you bump into someone that you needed to connect with, and it all feels like perfect timing. These little synchronicities are, whether they're big or small, are just reminders and little signs that everything is unfolding in the perfect time, in the perfect way. And they remind you also that there's something bigger at play in your life, that not everything has to fall on you. And as you move through life, I just want to encourage you to keep an eye out for these glimmers and these God-winks, because they're these tiny little guides, these small little affirmations that lead you to exactly where it is you need to be. One of the big challenges we talk about here often is that we're constantly on the go. We constantly have noise infiltrating our life. We have endless to-do lists and responsibilities. We have so many people that we need to show up for that it's easy to miss out on these little guides, these little notices, these points on the horizon that are meant just for us. And so here are a couple of things that I do for myself that help me to notice when the universe, when the divine is talking to me and reminding me that I am exactly where I need to be, that I'm moving in the direction that I need to, and ultimately that I am enough just as I am. And the first is that you need to pay attention, or I pay attention to patterns. Sometimes these glimmers and these God-winks show up in the form of repeating patterns. Perhaps you're hearing the same message coming from different people or different sources, or you're seeing a certain sign that makes sense to you but maybe not to anybody else. Or are you reliving the same situation over and over again? If you are, it's probably a sign that you need to pay attention, because you're supposed to be noticing something in all of these synchronicities. The next thing I have had to learn how to do is to embrace, to accept, to be okay with the unexpected. Life has a really magical, sometimes frustrating way of surprising us. And sometimes our most meaningful moments of guidance come in these unexpected pauses, or these forced hard stops, or these other forms of unexpected activity. Whether it's a random encounter, a sudden idea, an unplanned event, these coincidences are often really just God-winks guiding us on our path. Stay open to the unexpected instead of leaning into frustration or panic or anger or overwhelm. Instead, lean into the unexpected and just trust that you're supposed to be experiencing this. And maybe you don't draw meaning from every unexpected event, but maybe you see the overarching pattern and you say, okay, it's unexpected. It's not going to break me. I'm just going to roll with it. We talk a lot about this on the channel, and that is slowing down in order to listen. Sometimes, probably a lot of the times, we miss the subtle signs because we're just too much in the chaos. Life is too loud, both in the actual, it's very noisy, but also because our schedules are so busy that we miss the little signs and the little nudges because we're just too overwhelmed. So I encourage you to continue to practice listening to that tiny voice that's within you, taking moments away from the chaos, for creating pockets of rest during your busy days, making sure that you take your headphones out every once in a while and just enjoy the natural sounds that are around you. Once you become more attuned with not being in the energy of chaos, it becomes much easier for you to notice when something doesn't seem quite right, and not in a bad sense, but just in the sense that it's not how it normally is. And then that's when you might be able to pick up on a God-wink or a glimmer. When we're in that state of chaos, which this then shifts us to another thing that I try to embrace more and more, when we're in too much of the chaos, or we're too focused on checking off that to-do list, or running the kids here and there, or trying to do everything all at once, all the time, for all the people, we overlook the natural flow of life. And what's really key here is that we overlook the natural flow of our life. By keeping ourselves jam-packed busy, it makes it really hard for us to connect with how we want our life to look and how our life naturally should be unfolding, or naturally does unfold, if we weren't forcing all of these extra parameters around it. For me, I realized that having a super packed schedule, working all day and then meeting up with friends at night, didn't actually leave any time for myself. It didn't leave any time for my life to be a natural flow of all the things that made me happy, because I was going from one obligation to the next, which made it really hard for me to even create room for the unexpected. It was hard for me to go with the flow of what was naturally unfolding in my life. It wasn't until I took a step back after my nephew died in September and I didn't make any plans to do anything that I realized I was living a life that wasn't actually making me happy, that I was, instead of going with the flow, I was fighting it because I was trying to force so much of my life to come and unfold the way I wanted it to versus how it really should, what's really the best for me. And the last and final tip for this part is just follow your intuition. Again, this is part of that still small voice that's within you. And sometimes it isn't a voice, sometimes it's a feeling, or sometimes it's a natural gravitation towards something. But you have to trust that instinct. We are all born with our perfect instincts, and our instincts are never wrong, even though our society, even though people try to tell us not to trust ourselves. The only person we can really trust is ourselves, because we know what's best for us down at the very my cosmic cellular level. And it's these intuitive nudges that lead you toward the people, the places, the timing for everything to unfold in the way that you want it to. So let's say it's the end of the day and life has whirled past you without you even realizing it. Now, you may have missed signs or subtle notions throughout the day, but there are things we can do at the end of our day or maybe the next morning in which we can figure out how to remember what these nudges are, especially if it's patterns, right? If for me, I'll speak for myself here, I don't always get patterns. When I used to pray, I'd always ask for the big neon sign because I just would miss the subtle nudges and patterns. And so here are some things that I have taken into practice over the last couple of years, and you can use these things or not use these things, but here are just a couple of things, 3 ways that I have really been able to remember and kind of reflect on these glimmers and these God-winks. And the first is just reflecting daily. Carry a small notebook or use the Notes app on your phone to record any moments that kind of stand out to you. Anything that you can remember as you're thinking through the day, or as maybe you're going through the day and you're like, hey, that's kind of interesting, or that's weird. For example, for me, this looks like my grandmother loves butterflies. And so anytime I see a butterfly, I am always like, oh, that's a God-wink. That's definitely a God-wink. That's absolutely a glimmer. And I remember this really particularly when I went to Israel a couple of years ago. Israel is so beautiful, and my grandmother is quite religious. And the whole time I was there, I kept thinking, oh, she would love to have seen all of the places that I'm seeing and to walk where Jesus walked. But anyway, every single day I saw a butterfly or multiple butterflies. But I remember I was taking a boat ride literally on the Sea of Galilee. So we're out in the middle of a body of water and a butterfly floats by. And I just kept thinking how wonderful that my grandmother gets to be here with me. And so I encourage you at the end of the day or even in the morning, if that's easier for you, just jot down anything that really stood out to you, anything that grasps your attention, even if you couldn't in that moment write down, or take a moment to really recognize and honor that. The second is to have a gratitude practice. For those of you who already have one, this will be very easy because you can just include these glimmers and these God-winks into your moments of gratitude. Or maybe as you're writing down your gratitude, you can acknowledge that, like, oh, that's a glimmer, or that was a God-wink. Thank you. And just show gratitude to the divine for having you pause enough to reflect on that. For those of you who don't have a gratitude practice, this is simply a thing. There are many different ways in which you can embrace this, but one could be that you write down 3 things that you're grateful for, 3 things that made you happy, 3 things that had an impact in some kind of positive way in your life. A gratitude practice could look like when you hit all the green lights and you just say thank you out loud for those things. Or if you take your first sip of coffee and it hits the spot for you and you just pause for a millisecond and you show gratitude for that. A gratitude practice can also look like a more formative action in which you're writing gratitude or thank you notes to the people that you love, and you write out all the things that you love about that person and what's most important to you about them, and highlighting their deepest and best qualities. What this does is it strengthens your awareness of all the good things that you have going on, and it deepens your connection to that. A lot of the times our culture and how we receive news and just kind of what's going on in the world, we get so bogged down with what's going wrong, what isn't going right. And so our brains are actually being retrained and rewired to only find, or not only find, but they hone in on what isn't right, what isn't going well. And it's not just the culture, but I think our bodies do this as a way to protect us as well. But we are so quick to walk into a room and scan and find all the things we don't like about it, instead of walking into that room and noticing all the things that are so wonderful. For me, I have intentionally made sure that I have good lighting in my house, that I have candles that I enjoy, that I have fresh flowers. So then when I walk into a space, I notice how good it smells or the bright colors of the flowers. I intentionally do those things so that I'm forced, almost like I'm forcing myself to train my brain to find the good. Because I promise you, there is so much good. There really is. There's so much more good than there is bad. And I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but another aspect of remembering is sometimes the divine talks through people to us. So pay attention to the conversations that you're having, to the messages that people are sharing with you. You might hear something that resonates with you incredibly deeply, or something that you really needed to hear. I remember a couple of years ago having a conversation with my partner, and I don't know what I said. I can't remember what I said, but I remember him, because I think it was about I've had all of these questions and God's not answering. And he kind of looks at me and he goes, based on, conversations you share with your friends, he said, God is answering you. God is talking to you through Lisa and through Tess and through all of my beautiful friendships. And it took me a moment to recognize, oh, that is the neon sign that I've been asking God for. He's using it through my angels, through the people whom I love so much, to get that message and those answers to me. And so pay close attention to the conversations that you're having, because maybe the answers that you're seeking are being answered through the people who know and love you the most. One of my favorite things in life, I have a lot of favorite things actually, but one of the really good things in life that I've captured after the time that I was hospitalized is that glimmers and God-winks are such a beautiful way to embrace and to look at life. And it does require that we slow down. It does require that we be more intentional and paying attention and being aware. It does require a little bit on our end. But glimmers and God-winks are such a gift from the divine around us, from the nature, from universe, from God, from the gifts that we are given. And as you move throughout your day, remember to look for those sparks of joy, the small signs, the coincidences. They're a big arrow to look at the beauty and the magic of the world around you. I know I shared with you some of the glimmers and God-winks from my lives, but I would love to hear in the comments what you're noticing in your life, what good things are stopping you in your track or helping you to see the world in a lighter and a brighter and a more beautiful space. Thank you so much for joining me this morning or this afternoon or whenever it is that you're watching. Thank you for coming to my little corner of YouTube. And remember that you are worthy of a beautiful, glimmery life. Until next time, I'm holding you in the light.